What if the funniest show on British television was secretly hiding one of the most heartbreaking cast stories you have never been told? Allo Allo ran for 10 years, squeezed 18 million viewers in front of their screens every single week, and turned a Nazi-occupied French cafe into the most beloved address in British comedy. It was absurd, it was warm, it was completely unlike anything else on television. But here is what nobody talks about. One person on this list walked away from acting forever and reinvented themselves in a world so far from show business, it will make your jaw drop. And at least two of these people never made it to see just how much the world still loved them. Stay with me, because this one matters. Number 1. We have the man who was already 41 years old when he tied on that apron for the first time, and somehow wore it for a decade. Gorden Kaye as René Artois. René was television's greatest reluctant hero. Exhausted, unfaithful, permanently trapped between Nazis, the French resistance, and two waitresses who both adored him. Kaye described himself in his autobiography as a shy, overweight gay boy who found his whole identity through performing, and a tabloid forcibly outed him in 1989 while the show was still running. He responded with quiet dignity and kept showing up to work. Then, in 1990, a piece of wooden boarding smashed through his car windscreen during a storm and embedded itself in his forehead, leaving him with permanent scarring and memory loss. He recovered. He came back and finished the show. He passed away on the 23rd of January 2017 at 75. René survived everything the writers threw at him, and so did Gorden Kaye, right up until the very end. Number 2, we have Carmen Sylva as Edith Artois. Edith was the show's greatest running joke, the wife whose singing cleared rooms, whose suspicions about René were always exactly right, and whose love for him somehow outlasted every betrayal. Sylva was 60 years old when the show began, which makes her decade-long physical performance even more remarkable. She carried a grief most viewers never knew about. She lost her only child, a son, in infancy, and she channeled that loss into a career that never stopped. She passed away on the 2nd of July 2002 at 80, having spent her final years at Denville Hall, the retirement home for actors, alongside a castmate you will meet later in this list. Edith never stopped singing no matter how bad it got, and Carmen Sylva never stopped either. Number 3, we have a cast member who built an entirely different life in a world that has absolutely nothing to do with television, and the contrast between who she was on screen and who she became is almost impossible to believe. Francesca Gonshaw as Maria Riquier. Maria was the original second waitress, 24 years old when she joined, one of the youngest cast members in the entire production, romantically impulsive and always threatening to complicate René's life. She left after 5 seasons to join a drama series called Howard's Way, and that decision quietly ended her acting career as the industry moved on. Then she did something almost nobody saw coming. She walked away from performing entirely and built a highly successful career as a senior curator at a major London art gallery, becoming a respected figure in the fine arts world. She rarely attends fan events and keeps both her personal life and her reinvention largely private. Maria spent her time at Café René dreaming of something more, and Francesca Gonshaw went out and built it entirely on her own terms. Drop a comment below if that one surprised you, because we want to know. Number 4, we have Richard Gibson as Herr Flick. Cold, robotic, and somehow deeply ridiculous all at once, Flick was one of the great comic villains of British television, and Gibson was just 28 years old when he first stalked into Café René in that leather coat. He left before the final season due to a scheduling conflict, and fans never forgave the change. What he has done with that loyalty since is genuinely heartwarming. He regularly appears at conventions and charity events in full Gestapo costume, using the character that terrified Café René to raise money for good causes. He has been married to Kate Gibson since 1993. They have 2 sons, and they live a quiet life in Ireland far from any spotlight. Herr Flick terrified everyone at Café René, but the man behind the leather coat turned out to be one of the warmest people in this entire cast. Number 5, we have Kim Hartman as Private Helga Gerhardt. Helga spent 10 years being caught between Colonel von Strom and Herr Flick in increasingly ridiculous situations, and Hartman played every single moment with perfect deadpan commitment. She was 30 years old when filming began. Here is the detail that connects a BBC wartime sitcom directly to Hollywood royalty. Through her marriage to actor John Nolan, she became the aunt by marriage to Christopher Nolan, the director behind The Dark Knight, Inception, and Oppenheimer. After the show ended, she and Richard Gibson formed a touring cabaret double act that became a massive hit with fans across Europe. She appeared as recently as 2023 inches. Doctors, still working, still sharp. Helga was always tangled up in other people's schemes, but Kim Hartman has written her own story beautifully. If you are enjoying this, we drop new stories like this every 2 days, so hit subscribe and you will never miss one. Number 6, we have Guy Siner as Lieutenant Gruber. Gruber was something genuinely unusual for 1980s British television. A gay character written with warmth and courage rather than mockery, brave, loyal, funny, and quietly devoted to René in a way that became one of the show's most endearing threads. Siner was 35 years old when he first appeared, and is 78 today. He has spent years thoughtfully defending Gruber's legacy, arguing that the character was ahead of its time, a conversation that feels even more relevant now than when he first started having it. He moved to Los Angeles after the show and built a significant career in voice acting before returning to the UK. And he holds the rare distinction of having appeared in both Star Trek and Doctor Who. Gruber was brave enough to love openly in wartime France, and Guy Seiner has been brave enough to defend that legacy ever since. Number 7, we have Kirsten Cook as Michelle Dubois. Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once became one of the most quoted lines in British sitcom history, and Cook was 30 years old when she first delivered it with that magnificent intensity. Think about that for a second. That line has been repeated for over 40 years, and it started with a woman in her 30s whispering into a room full of people pretending not to listen. She has been married to Steve Cook for decades, has 2 children, and in 2025, a viral reunion photo of the surviving cast members, still completely in character, spread across social media and reminded an entirely new generation why this show mattered. Michelle always said she would only say things once, but Kirsten Cook has kept people talking for decades. Number 8, we have Richard Marner as Colonel von Strohm. Von Strohm was the pompous, art-obsessed German officer who spent most of the show trying to steal a painting while desperately avoiding his own side. And Marner played his particular brand of cowardice with magnificent consistency across the entire run. He was 61 years old when filming began. Now, here is where the casting becomes almost poetic. Marner was not German at all. He was born in Russia as Alexander Molinov, fled during the Revolution, and during the Second World War actually served in the Royal Air Force, fighting against the very regime he would spend a decade comically portraying. He was married to actress Pauline Collins from 1947 until his death, and passed away on the 18th of March 2004, at 82. The Colonel spent 10 years running from responsibility on screen, but the man playing him had already spent years running towards something far more dangerous in real life. Number 9, we have Rose Hill as Madame Fanny Lafon. Fanny was permanently bedridden upstairs, permanently scandalized, and permanently flashing her bed knobs at anyone within range, and Hill brought her to life with the timing of someone who had been performing longer than most of the cast had been alive. She was 68 years old when the show began. What audiences never knew was that the woman playing the comically terrible singer upstairs was, in real life, a former star of the Sadler's Wells Opera, a genuinely accomplished soprano whose musical talent was the complete opposite of everything Fanny represented. She passed away on the 22nd of December 2003 at 89, and spent her final years at Denville Hall alongside Carmen Silva, the two of them ending up under the same roof one last time. Fanny never left her bed on screen, but Rose Hill spent a lifetime going everywhere the music took her. Number 10, we have Arthur Bostrom as Officer Crabtree. The entire joke was breathtakingly simple. A British spy pretending to be a French policeman with the most catastrophically mangled French accent imaginable. And Bostrom committed to it so completely across 74 episodes that it never got old once. He was 30 years old when he joined the show in 1985 and is 71 today. His real life is almost as adventurous as his character's cover story. He is a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, a dedicated traveler, and in 2024, he published a book of deliberately mangled English in the spirit of Crabtree, raising funds for theatrical charities and delighting fans who had been quoting his mispronunciations for 40 years. Crabtree mangled every word he ever said, but Arthur Bostrom has made every one of his count. Number 11, we have Kenneth Connor as Monsieur Alphonse. The undertaker who arrived at Café René in 1984 with his little case of samples and his magnificent mustache became one of the show's most beloved additions almost immediately. And Connor was already 66 years old when he joined, bringing decades of carry-on experience to a role that fitted him like a perfectly tailored funeral suit. His career never slowed. He appeared on Noel's house party just 2 days before he died, performing with the same energy and precision that had defined 50 years of work. He passed away on the 28th of November, 1993 at 75, and the shock of it hit the cast hard because nobody had seen it coming. He was awarded an MBE in 1991 for his services to entertainment, a recognition that felt long overdue. Monsieur Alphonse always had a coffin ready for someone else, but nobody saw his own departure coming quite so soon. Number 12, we have Jack Haig as Roger Leclerc. It is I. Leclerc became one of the most instantly recognizable entrances in British sitcom history, the disguised resistance member whose elaborate costumes fooled absolutely nobody. Haig was already 69 years old when he first appeared, a veteran of the variety circuit whose entire career had been building toward exactly this. The show was still running, the audience still loved him, and there was no reason to think anything would change. He passed away on the 4th of July 1989 at 76, while the show was still in production, and the loss hit the cast harder than almost anything else. The writers introduced his brother, played by Derek Royal, to fill the gap, but fans never quite accepted the substitution. He had been married to variety performer Sybil Dunn since 1944. Leclerc always insisted on announcing himself dramatically, and Jack Haig left just as dramatically and far too soon. Number 13, we have Sam Kelly as Captain Gearing. You might be surprised by this one. Gearing was the gentler German officer, perpetually nervous, perpetually confused, and somehow the most sympathetic character in a Nazi uniform that television has ever produced. Kelly was 39 when the show began. He left deliberately after 5 seasons because he was terrified of being typecast, and the gamble paid off beautifully. He went on to acclaimed work in Porridge and built a serious West End theatrical career that earned him enormous respect far beyond sitcom audiences. In the final year of his life, he completed a celebrated run in Wicked before cancer took him. He passed away on the 14th of June 2014 at 70, and everyone in his theatrical circle described him as the funniest man in any room he ever entered. Jeering always looked like he was about to be caught, but Sam Kelly was always exactly where he wanted to be. Number 14, we have Hilary Minster as General von Klinkerhoffen. The General was the show's most genuinely threatening comic presence, the cold, aristocratic Prussian whose contempt for everyone never quite tipped into farce the way the other German characters did. Minster was 38 years old when he joined the show in 1984, a prolific voice actor and a devoted family man with 2 children, and everyone who worked with him described a warmth and kindness that was the complete opposite of every scene he appeared in. The career was still building. The voice work was flourishing. There was still so much ahead of him. He passed away on the 24th of November, 1999, at just 55 years old from cancer, one of the youngest losses this entire cast suffered. Von Klinkerhoffen never showed a single moment of warmth on screen, but everyone who worked with Hilary Minster remembered almost nothing else about him. Share this video with someone who grew up watching Allo Allo. They deserve to know what happened to this cast. Number 15, we have John D. Collins as Flying Officer Fairfax. Fairfax and Carstairs were one of the show's most reliable comic engines. 2 hopelessly incompetent British airmen, permanently in disguise, and somehow never any closer to getting home despite 10 full years of trying. Collins was 40 years old when filming began and is 83 today. He and Nicholas Francow became a genuine real-life double act over the years, appearing together at fan events with the same easy chemistry their characters always had on screen. He has been married to Jan Collins for over 40 years, and the 2 of them are frequently spotted together at Comedy Society events. Fairfax spent a decade trying to escape France without success, but John D. Collins has never seemed in any hurry to escape the legacy the show gave him. Number 16, we have Vicky Michelle as Yvette Carte Blanche. Yvette was the heart of Café René in many ways, the waitress whose devotion to René was genuine, even when everything around her was completely absurd. Michelle was 32 years old when she first appeared and is 75 today. 51 years of marriage to Graham Fowler, their daughter following her into acting, and in her later years she has become a passionate campaigner for Age UK, advocating loudly for the dignity and recognition of older performers in an industry that too often forgets them. In 2015, she found herself in an unexpected tabloid moment when she was injured during a physical altercation between other contestants on Celebrity Big Brother's bit on the side and pressed charges, a dramatic departure from her usual public image. Yvette always gave everything she had to René, and Vicky Michelle has spent her later years giving everything she has to causes far more worthy of it. Number 17, we have Sue Hodge as Mimi LeBlanc. Mimi arrived at Café René in 1987, tiny, ferocious, and hopelessly devoted to René in a way that somehow never stopped being funny. Hodge was 30 years old when she joined and is 68 today. She met her husband Keith Richards, not that one, while working on the Rocky Horror Show, and they married in 2002. She has toured a one-woman show called Mimi and Me for years that celebrates the character while showcasing her own considerable range, and in late 2025, she made headlines for her charity work with the Grand Order of Lady Ratlings, an organization dedicated to female performers. Mimi was always the smallest person in the room but the hardest one to ignore, and Sue Hodge has made sure that is still true in 2026. Number 18, we have Nicholas Francow as Flying Officer Carstairs. Where Collins played Fairfax with cheerful obliviousness, Franco brought a slightly more anxious energy to Carstairs, and the 2 of them balanced perfectly as a double act. He was 28 years old when the show began, and is 71 today. And here is the final twist you did not see coming. After Allo Allo ended, Francow stepped away from acting almost entirely and built a successful second career in software development and technical writing, becoming exactly the kind of quietly competent professional his character could never convincingly pretend to be. He lives privately between the UK and Cambridge, and still occasionally reunites with Collins for charity events, the warmth between them suggesting that whatever Fairfax and Carstairs never quite managed, Collins and Francow figured out long ago. 40 years ago, 18 million people sat down every week to watch a bunch of actors pretend to be French and terrible at keeping secrets. And somewhere in that absurdity, they made something that outlasted almost all of them, which means the show was never really about the war at all.